all these years. This wall is empty now with pegboard. There's a few cool things still laying around that I just wanted you to see. The move is in process. We're down to just about our last week. If my service stays strong, I'm gonna go out here and show you that some of these machines have been moved out here, and we moved a whole truckload of stuff today. We're gonna go back here in the dungeon. I won't be able to go far because of the service for the internet, but here is our big hone machine that was moving to Chicago, the DTS dyno, which we're going to set up for the Milwaukee 8 and the big boring bar. And then this is just the junk that's left in here that you've been seeing for weeks. We've been moving this stuff for weeks. All right, I'm gonna go back through the shop. I know it's dark in here. These are boxes of things I'm taking to Nashville with me. We're gonna still sell our parts. I'll talk to you about that a little bit. Yeah, the CK10, CV616. In this area, we have removed this milling machine. This place looks terrible now. The 1020 flow bench is gone. The SERDE's gone. The lathe, the big Bridgeport, CNC, the mill, the lathe, the boring and hone, and we cut a hole in the building to get the equipment out. Hey, we're not done moving yet, but the DTS dyno is all gone and unhooked. It's loading on the truck tomorrow, and then it goes in this room in here, and then this is the controls, and this is part of it. But anyway, the DTS dyno is going to Chicago as well, and we're still going to be involved with doing lots of Milwaukee 8 heads and cylinders, even though I'm going to be retired/retreated. All right, I want to talk to you a little bit about the B2 Heads program for the twin cam. This is a T126 that we've had on display here at Star Racing for 10 or 15 years. This sign was built way back when George Smith and I from S&S created G2 Motorsports together, and we came up with some really cool engines. And the B2 heads, these are the tall heads, like they're really tall. They're like 400 thou taller than a B3. The B3 head is what comes on the T143s, and it's milled off here and here, and it's really short, and it limits the airflow capabilities in the port here because the valve spring is closer to the roof of the port, which we'll talk about another time. But the reason I got into this is because I was looking one day, I was in here wishing I had a set of B2 heads because guys are offering more money for them than they even cost when they were new. And I said, you know what? These might be B2 heads. So I went over to this display that we've had for 10 or 15 years. Let me spin it around. And I said, good gracious, look at there. Special application, S&S B2 heads. It was on the display engine. And look at that, there's no crankshaft in here. This is just a shaft stuck in a bearing. Over here, the cam chest is empty, and the pushrod tubes are for looks. But the heads are good. They're stripped. You know, they got seats in them and they got guides in them. So now I got a set of B2 heads. Black, wrinkle finish, chrome. So I guess I'll take this display apart and have a set of B2 heads. Now, I'm going to sit down a minute and talk to you about this B2 head program real quick. Let's see if I can get this turned around where the view won't be so obtrusive. I'll sit in this chair. And you've seen this view before. There we go. Thank you all for watching. Tech Talk number 72. Number 72. That's 72 weeks in a row that we've been doing this Tech Talk deal. And I'm talking a little bit about several things tonight. One, I want to talk to you about the B2 heads. They were available back in the day on a T124 if you ordered them with a B2 option. That would change the pistons, it would change the the cylinder head and all would be the biggest bore. The T124 with B2 heads was a part that S&S would sell. They don't make them, they don't sell them anymore. Matter of fact, they quit stocking the B2 heads. So what I would like to do is I would like to pre-order 10 sets of B2 heads. And I want to tell you some limitations about the B2 heads so you don't get confused. There are 2 bolt patterns available today. There was 3 bolt patterns. There was a what they called a sidewinder, which was the 4 1/8 bore S&S pattern. The first 124s came out with this because they couldn't use anything that would fit a stock engine case. That was a rule or a law that, or some connection they had or disconnection they had with Harley Davidson. But now when you buy a new T124 from S&S, it comes with super stock heads. Super stock heads have small ports, small seats, and small valves. And when I say small, I'm not talking about tiny. I'm talking about like 2-inch or 2/100 on the intakes, and maybe I think they're 1.65 or 1.625 or something on the exhaust. I'm talking out of turn, so don't let me act like I know what I mean. But the super stock heads are similar in performance to the Screaming Eagle 110 heads. You can make them a little bit bigger and better because they're stronger. But the B2 heads is the ones that are not installed on engines at S&S anymore. If you order a set of B2 cylinder heads for a twin cam, the only ones they sell are for the stock engine case, Harley, not this case. They sell them for the stock engine case, which that means if you have a twin cam 103, you have a 96, you have an 88, you can buy a set of heads from S&S to fit that bolt pattern. Now, when I say stock bolt pattern, I'm not saying stock bore. A lot of people got confused and wanted to send money and say, I want a set. I got a stock bore. And people are saying, I got a 103, I got a 107, I got a 110. Twin cam. Yes, the bolt pattern is correct, but listen, the valves and the chambers and this B2 head is too big for a stock engine. It is too big for a stock engine. Please understand, the bore size, not the bolt pattern, the bore size is too small on a stock engine. So when you say you want a set of B2 heads for a stock 103, it will fit the cases. It will fit the bolt pattern. In other words, if you take the stock heads off and you put the B2 heads, the new ones that you buy on, they will fit on the bolts. But the bolts, the valve circle, the bore, how big the valves are in the bore is too big to fit in a stock little baby piston size. So you got to have a 4.125 is the minimum bore for a B2 head. That's the minimum bore. Now, I would like to have 2 sizes of B2 heads available. I'm going to special order the big bore like came on the 126, the 145, and the 143. The T143 comes with short B3 heads. But the bolt pattern is big. They call that a 4 3/8 bolt pattern. I know this is a little bit confusing, and I'll try and slow down, but you know I'm a Southern guy and we talk slow anyway, so I don't try and talk real fast. So I'm going to try and tell you there are 2 bolt patterns, not bore sizes, 2 bolt patterns. The 143, the T143, the T126 they don't make anymore, the T145 they don't make anymore, has the same bolt pattern as the T143 that they still make. The T143 was an engine they developed so that they could put big cubic inches, 143 cubic inches, into a stock bagger, into a stock Road King, Street Glide, Road Glide, so it would fit without having to cut the frame. These engines with a 143 with the short set of B2 heads, which is a set of B2 heads shortened down about 400 thousandths, makes the engine short enough to fit into a stock frame. And if you'll look at the racing organizations, they have these classes now. Let's see, bagger drag racing, Hogs Gone Wild, racing these FLs, unmodified frames. That means you can't cut the backbone, you can't notch the backbone and put a big engine in with a set of B2 cylinder heads. And I know that I'm saying a lot of numbers and a lot of letters, so it's that time of the day for me where I'm not going to be as sharp as a tack right now, so I might misspeak, but I'm going to try and say it again, where you understand. If you want to put B2 heads on your twin cam, you're going to have to do it on a stock motorcycle engine, a stock 103, a stock 96, or a stock 88, where the engine will be short enough to fit in the frame. If you buy a T143, which is available today, it comes with short heads to make it fit in the frame. The short heads they sell are a version of the B2 heads, which are the big valve, big ports, and they take bigger headers, they take bigger intake manifolds. It makes the engine, they cut them down and make the T143 short enough to fit in a stock frame. If you would like to put B2 heads on a T143, you're going to have to cut the frame. You're going to have to notch the frame. You're going to have to cut the frame where the frame comes across here. This is too tall, so you're going to have to cut a notch in your frame for this to fit. You're going to have to cut a notch in your frame for this to fit. Now, please understand that if you have a 124 hot setup kit, or you have a you buy a kit from S&S or from anyone where you can put a set of 4 1/8 bore, you bore out your cases, your stock 103 cases, twin cam, bore out your cases, and you put the 4 1/8 bore on there with the big sleeves, and you use the stock pattern. Now, the B2 heads that I want to order will fit on that, and the whole package will not be so tall. It will fit into a stock bike. Now, if you look at this motorcycle right here, this is Bagzilla. Okay, I know this is not the right way to do that, but this was a Road King, 2013 Road King, and it had a 143, T143 engine in it that we put a short stroke, we put a stock stroke crank in it, like comes in a 103, and we put a set of B2 heads on it and made the engine so short that it would fit in this bike without cutting the frame. That's why we were able to run that in Hogs Gone Wild in that class, because it was the biggest engine we could build without having to cut the frame. That's just a rule, and that's why we made it that way. So if you'll understand, if you have a T143 and you want to make about 20 more horsepower, you buy a set of B2 heads from us, or you try to build something custom like Bagzilla had, and then you can make that big bore, big bolt pattern, B2 head, and that is very capable of making 200 horsepower. But you can't use a pipe that's on the market. You have to buy a billet cat, a Burns pipe. No, you're going to have to buy a Mega Cat from D&D, or you're going to have to buy some special pipe. Maybe another company makes a big one for that bore size, but it's a big pipe, big exhaust flanges, big exhaust ports, and you have to buy a bigger intake manifold, and you'll have to we use the HPI. They make a manifold for the B2 heads. They make a manifold for the B3 heads. It's an oval port, and it bolts on that style head, and it's a different head. Why is this important? Well, the fastest one we ever made was Bagzilla. It was all motor, ran 930s, 148 to 150 miles an hour with 3 or 4 different people riding it. Larry Westerfield went really fast on it. I went really fast on it. Ricky Gadsden went really fast on it. Mike Beelan went really fast on it. And when I say really fast, I'm talking about 940s, all motor, no wheelie bars, street legal, smooth bike, stock 6-speed transmission, stock clutch, and you can drive it right down through there, and it's fast. Now that's a short engine that makes a lot of power. That is something you can build. Star Racing doesn't build them anymore. We can help you get parts for it. We can hook you up with people that can build them. But I just wanted you to know, when I offer up these special 10 sets of B2 cylinder heads, they are not for a stock engine. They are for a 124 or bigger engine in a set of stock cases. Now, there are guys out there that have 117 kits. They put the 124 top end on a stock bottom end with the cases board, and that makes a 117. Now, I'm not talking about Milwaukee 8 guys. I am talking about a twin cam. 1999 through 2016 is what I'm talking about. There's 100,000 guys out there trying to go fast. Hey, Jim Bob. Hey, Daryl. Hey, Alan. So don't get confused with me what I'm trying to say. I know I'm really spinning around in circles, and if I was Jackie or my daughter Julie, I'd probably have to quit watching because Daddy's going around and around. But I get so many questions about this every day, and I'm trying to make it. If you guys go watch Tech Talk Tuesday on number 72, you might be able to understand that these B2 heads make your twin cam engine something really special, but they are not for everybody. just because you want them and you can afford them doesn't mean that they will be perfect for you. So if you have, just now Alan said, so will one of the B2 heads you intend to have made fit on a 4 1/8 bore on a Screaming Eagle 110B in a soft tail frame? I'm gonna say yes. Bryce, you got a 117 twin cam. If you have the 4 1/8 bore, because listen to me, the valves are too big. They will not fit in a small bore. They won't fit in a 4-inch bore. They won't fit in a 110, a 4060 bore. They won't fit in a 4100 bore. You got to have a big bore for these big valves to fit. The valves in the heads are so big that there's no room unless you have a big bore. So Bagzilla, that was a 135. We put a 4.44 or 4.435 bore. That's the same bore that like a T143 with a set of B2 heads on it. We had to cut the cylinders really short. We had to make short push rods, and we had to bore the cases in order to get the stack height of the whole engine short enough to go in the stock frame. So we're gonna buy 10 sets from S&S. And just so you guys would know, it's not for the week. We're gonna buy 10 sets of the big bore. We're gonna buy 10 sets of the small bore. And those are going to cost, think about this for a minute, that's $40,000. That's a $40,000 investment. Now for a company, a big company, like some big Harley shop or somebody like that, that doesn't seem that big, but a $40,000 investment on boxes of heads on the shelf is a big investment for Jackie and I. But we have spent 2 years in this business, which we are now retiring from, trying to get our hands on B2 heads. The last set of new B2 heads we bought from S&S, we got the money from the customer, we ordered them, and then we got promised they'll be here in a month, they'll be here in a month, they'll be here in a month. Well, it took several months. And this order that I'm proposing to you now, don't be weak. This is going to have to put your money where your mouth is. They're saying that I can get these heads in March. So if you don't want to buy in, and nobody buys in, and Jackie and I still decide to put the 40K on the line, we'll have 10 sets of heads that will fit a stock case bore size, stock case bolt size, and we'll have 10 sets that will fit the T143 or bigger engines, big bore, short stroke, that will fit in the stock frame. Or if you don't care how tall the engine is, like I don't today. If I was going to build me an engine today, I don't care if I cut the frame. I just want the engine I want. You don't have to cut it much. It's only ½ inch, maybe 400 thou. It's not going to be a lot. So, yes, I see you M8 guys chomping at the bit. Yeah, we talk M8 all the time. That's what my business is going to be about. But I got to tell you about this. Finish with the B2 head. If you don't buy in and you don't want any now, listen to me. When they're sitting on the shelf, and S&S says, yes, we'll sell them. Just know they supply them when they can. They put you in line. And right now, the way I'm told at S&S, and David and you guys that work there can tell me if I'm right or wrong, they're telling me all the machines at S&S have blue things bolted onto them, like M8 cam plates and like oil pumps for M8s. And they're trying to make those parts. And they're really run over with exhaust systems. I'm not that guy, man. I want the good stuff, man. I want the big bore cylinders. I want the 3-piece crankshafts. I want the B2 cylinder heads. That's what I really like out of them, and I believe that, thank you, Reggie, you did. Some of you guys already sent in the money, but just be prepared to sit on it for a minute because this is an investment for the future. They're not ready to go today. We got some bad intel when I think Roger put up there that there were 10 sets of heads in stock. No. There's 10 sets of heads being ordered, and they take a long time to get them. So I'm wasting a whole 20 minutes talking about this with you. But there is a manifold, but there will be one for carburetors. I don't know anything about the carburetors, man. I quit working on carburetors 20 years ago. I still know about them, but I don't know. S&S makes all the parts. Yes, you can still buy that. There's a manifold that you can buy for that. Yes, you're right. But they're going to be really close to $3,000. CNC ported, black, with highlighted fins. It will come with 2.2 intake valves, stainless valves, 1.8 exhaust. They're going to be really big valves. They're CNC ported. They will be completely assembled with the big springs so you can go up to 650 lift. They'll have titanium retainers. They'll have single groove locks. And these will be the best of the best you can get for twin cams. They're going to be a lot of money because we're going to have to put a lot on the line to get them. Or you can order the stock bolt pattern ones. that will fit on your 103 with a big bore, and I don't know how long it'll take you to get them, but they say you can still buy them, and we're going to try and buy 10 sets at a time and see if we can get them sooner than everybody else. So that's why, if you see me talking about get in on the B2 head deal, I just spent this whole time telling you about it. It's not technical as much as it is about sales, I guess, but the reason that these are not available anymore that I know about, S&S doesn't make them anymore. I think you can get them, when they get enough orders in, they might stop a machine and run some. So I was trying to grease the skids, as old George Smith said, grease the skids so that they can get 10 sets and run them through. And we'll have them on the shelf since they're not planning on having them on the shelf. So let's go over here to the board for a minute. Tech Talk number 72. Really thankful that we've had this last this long. It's amazing. And I made some notes here. Remember, the big bore, and I'm going to draw a little sketch why. You need a big bore, well, minimum of 4.125, and the reason is because the intake valve is this big, and the exhaust valve is this big in the B2 head. And if you put it on a stock engine, the bore will be this small, and these valves will not fit. They won't fit the piston, and they won't fit the bore. That's why. They're going to go for around that much money. Assembled, CNC ported, and ready to go. I'm going to have them in the box done like that. This is a little bit of a catch-up Tech Talk because I get a lot of questions. People are confused when they tell me about the 3 cams we sell. We have the 30-30 for the M8 now, and we have the 3/4, and then we have the full race. All right, let me tell you the purpose of these again, just so I'm trying to avoid the questions. The 30-30 is the biggest cam we can make and sell and use for a stock engine, for a stock M8. 2017 through 2021. 30-30 will fit. It will work with the stock springs, and it will work with the stock pistons. And I'm going to tell you why. Today, I had several friends get a little bit confused. They say, no, I want the bigger ones. I'm going to buy springs and retainers, and I'm going to put the 3/4 cam. This one is 485 lift, and it's the biggest one we can put in a stock M8. This one has 585 lift, and it's the biggest one you can use with Screaming Eagle springs and several other of the valve springs that are available on the market. The full race is a full 615 lift. Boy, I just got that all out of time. Forgive me. This is live, and I'm AARP, whatever age styling here. All right, the full race is 615 lift, and you have to use good springs, big springs with this. This one you can use the Screaming Eagle springs. This one you can use the stock springs. Okay, they say, okay, I'll buy springs. I don't want a 30-30. I want more. I want the 3/4 cam in my stock 107, or I want the 3/4 cam in my stock 114 or my stock 117. It won't fit, y'all, and it's not because of the springs. We're going to move over, and I'm going to show you. Yeah, Dave, that's correct. Yes, the 30-30 name comes from old cars. The 3/4 name comes from old cams, and the full race comes from old cams. Back from the 60s, back from the 70s, when I was a hot rodder full-time, that's what I loved. And we had 30-30 cams, we had 3/4 cams, we had full race cams. It was a lot of fun. We had a big time with that, and I decided to bring it back for today and the future. This is for the M8, okay? Now, let me tell you why it's important that you have to put a piston kit. This works with stock pistons because here's how a stock piston looks. Side view. Here's a wrist pin. It has a pocket, a valve pocket that looks like this. That's a side view of the valve pocket. Okay? The 30-30 cam, the valves at TDC lift will almost hit the piston. When you put the 3/4 cam in, the TDC lift is more, so you have to have pockets that look like this. That's a big exaggeration, But when the valves are on TDC, the intake valves are here and the exhaust valves are here. And that's how you make more power with that deal. So you have to have hot rod pistons like Wiseco, CP, Star, MTC. You got to have somebody that makes cool pistons to put the 3/4 cam in or the full race cam because of the valve pockets, not because of the valve springs. There's more to it than valve springs, stock, Screaming Eagle springs, or our PSI springs. So we use the PSI springs for this full race. We use the PSI springs for the 3/4 cam. And they're not called PSI because of pressure. It's because of the precision spring. And they make the best parts. And that's what NASCAR guys use, pro stock car guys use. It is the preferred piece made in America. And I just wanted to tell you that it's not exactly what you always think. I mean, one guy told me he wanted a billet cat for his Milwaukee 8 from D&D, but he wanted to get rid of the cat. He said, I was going to get my pipe decatted, so why do I want to buy a billet cat? And I said, okay, that's just a misunderstanding of the terms, man. A billet cat does not mean it has a catalytic converter on it. Hey, Brett. Thanks for y'all. All right, so TDC lift, I don't know it off the top of my head, but let's say that the 3030 has a 100 TDC lift. And let's say the 3/4 has a 130 TDC lift. And let's say the full race has a 150 lift. So that means when the piston's at the top on overlap, the cam is so big, the full race, that both valves are open 150 off the seat. The 3/4 cam is open 130 thousandths off the seat. And say the 3030 cam will fit a stock motorcycle, a stock 107 or a stock 114 or a stock 117. This cam, the valves are only off the seat about 100 at TDC, which means that it'll clear stock pistons. Does that help you guys understand? All right. I've got to do this again next Tuesday because guess what, you guys? Time ran out again. Even though I'm having fun and I'm enjoying doing this, time ran out again. Whew. Thank you all for watching. I'm in Americus, Georgia. I'm moving to Nashville. I'm going to go there this week, but we're still moving equipment. We're still moving parts. And I have so much stuff here from 41 years, and I'm thankful for it. But look, please stay tuned. Please send me questions. I won't call your name if you ask me what you think's a dumb question. I'm not going to say Billy, Bob, Joe, Tom, Bobby, Johnson. Ask me a question that you should know the answer to. No, you don't. You don't know the answer to them. I don't know the answer to all the questions. I've been trying to learn it for my whole life, but I know about this more than some people because I worked on this. You guys worked on what you worked on your whole life. This is what I worked on my whole life. So these opinions are mine. They're not everyone's. Please don't get upset about it if you don't agree. I love you if you don't agree. Okay? Take care of each other, man. It's really scary out there. We all got to look after each other. And take a minute when you're at the store or you're at the mall or you're out shopping or something and you see a woman and a child going across the parking lot. It don't cost you any pennies to watch them just for a minute and make sure they're safe. Because if we all do that for each other, man, it's going to be a lot better. Let's just keep an eye on each other. I want to tell you I'll be back next Tuesday. Stay in touch. George@starracing.com. My Facebook page, George Bryce. And also I'm on Instagram now. I think it's George Bryce Star. But I put a lot of information up because I love it and I love sharing with you guys. May God bless. Good night.